So as a follow-up to our video showing some of the top gaming desktops that we saw at CES 2015, we wanted to do a top gaming notebooks one because actually, I feel like some of the amazing notebook technology that we saw this week is even better than what we saw on the desktop. So without further ado, here we go. Could this be one of our top gaming laptops of CES this year? Is this even a laptop? I mean, this thing weighs, what, 4.7 kilograms. It's got a massive 18.4-inch 1080p display, and it is big. Like, oh, look at it. It is thick. Look at this thing. This is the GT80 Titan SLI, and this is a whole new concept as far as gaming laptops are concerned. It's got a Core i7-4980 HQ processor, dual NVIDIA GTX 980M 8GB graphics cards. Did I mention that MSI is committing to offer MXM upgrade modules for at least 2 generations that are compatible with this, as well as a cooling solution? It supports up to 4 DDR3 modules for a total of 32 gigs of RAM, up to 4 M.2 SATA SSDs in RAID 0, in addition to a 2.5-inch hard drive. It's got their killer networking, so it's got 2x2 AC as well as wired networking. It's got a 1080p webcam, but the real killer app for this one is, aside from the upgradability, so you can actually access all those components I was talking about before, the optical drive, 4 SATA M.2s, as well as 2 of the DIMMs, the other 2 are on the bottom, and the 2.5-inch drive. Aside from upgradability, it is this guy right here. This is a Cherry MX Brown mechanical gaming keyboard built right into this notebook. And what is a true marvel about this is it actually maintains the same profile off the desk as a regular mechanical gaming keyboard. Is this the most practical thing ever? Would it make more sense to carry around a mechanical gaming keyboard with you whenever you had to travel with your system? I will leave that up to you guys, but this is definitely a one-of-a-kind piece of machinery and something that will appeal to some folks out there. I know this for a fact. Continuing our tour of the top gaming notebooks of CES 2015, out of everything that Gigabyte had on display, this is the one that really stood out to me. Not only does it have a Core i7 quad-core processor, and it's, got this extremely slim form factor, great mix of I/O with 4 USB 3 ports, dual HDMI, mini display port out, it's got a glass touchpad, it's got actually a fairly nice chiclet keyboard with a full number pad and macro keys over on the left. It's got a 3K or optionally a 4K non-TN, that's an IGZO display. On top of all that stuff, 0.9 inches thin, it's got GeForce GTX 965M graphics cards in SLI. Yes, this is a dual GPU SLI notebook in an extremely slim form factor, and it packs a bunch of other stuff in there too, instead of compromising the way that we see thin and light gaming notebooks do a lot of the time. It doesn't have any limitations in terms of storage. You've got up to 3 M.2 SSDs supported, along with a 2.5-inch hard drive, and it doesn't compromise on memory, with up to 4 DDR3 SODIMMs supported for a total of 32 gigs of RAM. Our next notebook is a little bit of an unusual one. Yeah, it features a Core i7 quad-core 4870HQ processor. Yeah, it's got 16 gigs of RAM. It can hold up to 2 SSDs in RAID 0, 13.3-inch IPS display, backlit chiclet keyboard, beautiful, super slim, lightweight design, and AORUS graphics. Well, hold on a second, Linus. That doesn't sound like much of a gaming notebook. Well, the real magic for this one happens in the box underneath it. At the back of this notebook is a little flap that covers a full PCI Express 16X slot. PCI Express 16X Gen 3. So this is desktop class connectivity to this box down below that not only has additional USB as well as killer Ethernet and audio ports, but also a cooling fan, a 450 watt power supply, and room for any desktop graphics card you could pretty much want. MSI is saying you'll have support for any MSI GPU and any reference GPU from either NVIDIA or AMD. And all you gotta do is power down the system, slide it into this locking dock right here, power it back up, and boom, you are outputting from what they've got in here is a GTX 980, if I recall correctly. You output to an external monitor, and you are having a desktop-grade gaming experience, except when you want to pick it up and be on the go, and then you have a super lightweight notebook. Did I mention it's called the GS30 Shadow? I don't think I did, but that's what it's called. So we found our next sick gaming notebook in the Intel Performance Notebook Suite. I mean, imagine finding some high-performance notebooks there. This is the HP OMEN 15. So it's a 15.6-inch 1080p model with a full 10-point multi-touch touchscreen. For me personally, that is something that I do really appreciate. It's got a Core i7-4710HQ. It's got a GeForce GTX 860M, SSD. I think this particular one has 8 gigs of RAM. And okay, so those specs don't sound really that amazing. For me, this one is more about the look. Aside from the very striking material choices that HP has made for this one with the textured back cover, as well as the sort of the angular shape to the way that it sits on the desk, you've actually got, this is kind of cool, lights that illuminate in the surprisingly loud and clear speakers along the right-hand edges. You've got a red backlit keyboard, a super, like, mega wide touchpad that is incredibly pleasing to use, and then on the bottom itself, let's go ahead and close this bad boy. You've got basically an entirely perforated surface along the entire back of the notebook that keeps it nice and cool. It's got a rubber ring around the bottom so it doesn't slip around when you're using it on your desk. And this is actually something that I appreciate more than, maybe even more than I should. So there's 2 rear exhaust vents at the back, in addition to power in, 4 USB 3.0 ports, HDMI out, mini display port out, and a headphone jack. I really like having I/O at the rear. I find so many notebook makers put I/O on the right, especially USB ports. Like if they're only on the right, then I find they get in the way of your mouse hand if you want to actually game with the thing by plugging in a mouse. For HP, the only thing on the right-hand side is an SD card slot, and other than that, it is completely clean around the outside of the notebook. Now this little number right here is a pretty normal looking gaming notebook. It's got a 15.6-inch 1080p display. It's got an Intel Core i7-4710HQ processor. That's a quad core. It's got a GeForce GTX 970M or an R9 295XM in there for the GPU, up to 16 gigs of RAM, an M.2 SSD for storage, along with a 2.5-inch hard drive, and a pretty typical I/O configuration, some lighting effects. It's not like hyper thin or anything like that. Don't say, whoa, hey, hold on. At the back, that's not a standard looking I/O thing. That is a port for Alienware's graphics amplifier, the box that's sitting right next to it. So what this does is it's a proprietary connector that features a PCI Express Gen 3 4X link, as well as some other tomfoolery to give your notebook both expanded I/O, so additional USB ports. I'm pretty sure that's the only thing they got back here. Yeah, some additional USB ports, as well as a full PCI Express 16X graphics card slot inside the box that is powered by a 375-watt power supply. So the demo they're running right here actually has this notebook running Shadow of Mordor with a GTX 980 desktop graphics card powering this 4K display and running through the system. So the system's only acting as CPU, memory, storage, actually everything except the GPU, where this one takes over for whatever mobile GPU would normally have in the laptop. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed our top gaming notebooks of CES 2015. I certainly did. Make sure that you're subscribed. Click that subscribe button if you want to catch all the videos from Linus Tech Tips, and make sure you're subscribed even if you don't want to catch them all, even if you maybe just want to catch, I don't know, 20% of them. I mean, I was never much of a completionist either. So click like if you like, dislike if you disliked, and we'll see you again next time.